This is what happened, This is 1854. The American Indian chief of Seattle replies to an offer from the white government of the United States to buy, within quotation, to buy a large area of Indian land. How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of the land? The idea is strange to us. If you do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them? You don't own them. Every part of this earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every humming insect is holy in the memory and experience of my people. This beautiful earth is the mother of the red man. We are part of the earth and it is part of us. The rivers are our brothers. We give the rivers the kindness we would give to any brother. But the white man does not understand our ways. He is a stranger who takes from the land whatever he needs. The earth is not his brother but his enemy, and when he has conquered it, he moves on. He kidnaps the earth from his children and he does not care. I do not know. Our ways are different from your ways.
This is preeminently the time to speak the truth and boldly. The measure of that restoration lies in the extent to which we apply social values, more noble than mere monetary profit. Happiness lies not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort. The joy, the moral stimulation of work no longer must be forgotten in the mad chase of evanescent profit.
We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. The need to maintain balance between the clearly necessary and the comfortably desirable. Balance between our essential requirements as a nation and the duties imposed by the nation upon the individual. Balance between actions of the moment and the national welfare of the future. As we peer into society's future, we, you and I, and our government must avoid the impulse to live only for today, plundering for our own ease and convenience the precious resources of tomorrow. We cannot mortgage the material assets of our grandchildren without risking the loss also of their political and spiritual heritage. We want democracy to survive for all generations to come, not to become the insolvent phantom of tomorrow. We pray that peoples of all faiths, all races, all nations may have their great human needs satisfied, that those now denied opportunity shall come to enjoy it to the full, that all who yearn for freedom may experience its spiritual blessings. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility, that all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth, and that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love.
Carson maintains that the balance of nature is a major force in the survival of man, whereas the modern chemist, the modern biologist, the modern scientist believes that man is steadily controlling nature.
Now, to these people, apparently the balance of nature was something that was repealed as soon as man came on the scene. Well, you might just as well assume that you could repeal the law of gravity. The balance of nature is built of a series of interrelationships between living things and between living things and their environment. You can't just step in with some brute force and change one thing without changing a good many others. Now, this doesn't mean, of course, that we must never interfere, but we must not attempt to tilt that balance of nature in our favor. But when we do make this attempt, we must know what we're doing. We must know the consequences. Unless we do bring these chemicals under better control, we are certainly headed for disaster.
We all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures, and we are all mortal. Our problems are man-made, therefore they can be solved by man, and man can be as big as he wants. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings. Man's reason and spirit have often solved the seemingly unsolvable, and we believe they can do it again.
There was a time when an American who was about to go overseas would be warned not to drink the water. But now we have such a tremendous water pollution problem in our fjords and an air pollution problem also that if any of you are thinking of coming to the United States, I would suggest that you heed the warning in the following song. If you visit American City, you will find it very pretty. Just two things of which you must beware. Don't drink the water and don't breathe the air. Pollution, pollution, we got smog and sewage and mud. Turn on your tap and get hot and cold running crud. See the halibuts and the sturgeons being wiped out by detergents. Fish gotta swim and birds gotta fly, but they don't last long if they try. Pollution, pollution, you can use the latest toothpaste and then rinse your mouth with industrial waste. Just go out for a breath of air and you'll be ready for Medicare. The city streets are really quite a thrill. If the hoods don't get you, the monoxide will. Pollution, pollution, wear a gas mask and a veil. Then you can breathe long as you don't inhale. Lots of things there that you can drink, but stay away from the kitchen sink. Throw out your breakfast garbage, and I've got a hunch that the folks downstream will drink it for lunch. So go to the city, see the crazy people there, like lambs to the slaughter. They're drinking the water and breathing the air.
We'll try to play all cameras. I'll play a little bit moving around here as we go along, because you'll use it. Okay. I have sent to the Congress today a sweeping set of proposals to clean up our nation's air and water. This is the most far-reaching and comprehensive message on conservation and restoration of our natural resources ever submitted to the Congress by a President of the United States. We are taking these actions not in some distant future, but now, because we know that it is now or never.
Earth Day demonstrations began in practically every city and town in the United States this morning, the first massive nationwide protest against the pollution of the environment. In Washington, there was an awesome Earth Day warning from a government scientist. Dr. J. Murray Mitchell said pollution and overpollution, unless checked, could so warm the Earth in 200 years as to create a greenhouse effect, melting the Arctic ice cap and flooding vast areas of the world.
Stockholm, Sweden, June 12, 1972. Mrs. Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister of India, arrived today to address the first United Nations Conference on the Human Environment. She was met by the Secretary General of the conference, Mr. Maurice Strong, who escorted Mrs. Gandhi to the rostrum.
It is clear that the environmental crisis which is confronting the world will profoundly alter the future destiny of our planet. No one amongst us, whatever our status, strength or circumstance, can remain unaffected.
The very fact that the conference began with 113 participating countries with very high-level delegations from those countries, this in itself represented a very significant step forward, because this demonstrated more than anything else the real concern of the majority of countries in the world.
Each of us all across this great land has a stake in maintaining and improving environmental quality, clean air and clean water, the wise use of our land, the protection of wildlife and natural beauty, parks for all to enjoy. These are part of the birthright of every American. To guarantee that birthright, we must act, and act decisively. It is literally now or never. During the past 3 years, we have made a good start. We have passed new laws to protect the environment, and we have mobilized the power of public concern. But there is much yet to be done. 18 of the major environmental proposals which I put forward a year ago have still not received final action by the Congress. I repeat today my urgent request for congressional action on this much-needed legislation. And I am also presenting a number of new proposals. The environmental agenda now before the Congress includes laws to deal with water pollution, pesticide hazards, ocean dumping, excessive noise, careless land development, and many other environmental problems. These problems will not stand still for politics or for partisanship. They demand to be met now. By meeting them now, we can make 1972 the best year ever for environmental progress. The time has come for man to make his peace with nature.
The war in Vietnam's over, and what are we going to do next? And the answer to that question was, we're going to start an ecology movement. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go save the whales.
What we put into effect was a plan that Bob Hunter had come up with from reading a lot of Gandhi. He felt that we could just put ourselves between the harpoon and the whales and they wouldn't kill the whales.
It wasn't just a matter of holding up signs saying, stop killing the whales. No. Greenpeace wanted to get out there in front of the whaling boats and stop them.
All the Greenpeace is a-sailing, they're crazy as hell. They'd be riding a big ocean in a hollowed-out shell. They'll probably get seasick, or they'll probably go blind. They're probably on drugs, or at least out of their minds. Now what is a whale but a big hunk of flesh? Let's poke 'em and stab 'em and steal his breath.
In 1975, Greenpeace set off to hunt the whalers. After 2 months at sea, they came upon the Russian whaling fleet.
There's 5 over there, there's 1 by the Vostok, and there's 3 over here. There's 9 chasing.
We're coming upon a floating slaughterhouse. There's blood in the water, there's huge slabs of blubber being hauled up on these big factory ships. Blood is just pouring out of this pipe, and the stench alone made us all want to throw up.
Suddenly, Bob and I were in a small boat in front of a Soviet harpoon vessel that was bearing down on us. In front of us is 8 magnificent sperm whales that were fleeing for their life, and every time the harpooner tried to get a shot, I was at the helm, so I would maneuver the boat to try and block the harpoon.
Here's the whales, here's us in our Zodiacs, and here's the Russian ship. We are right between the Soviet ship and the whales. And the harpooner's not shooting, but eventually somebody from the bridge walks down the catwalk and talks to the harpooner, and the harpooner nods and the guy goes back, and Bob looks in his eyes and he knows this guy's going to shoot this harpoon.
Then he looked at us and smiled and brought his finger across his neck, and that's when I realized Gandhi wasn't going to pull through for us that day.
And at that very moment, they fire the harpoon.
This harpoon flew over our head and slammed into the backside of one of the whales, and she screamed. It was a very human-like scream, like a woman, and it took us completely off guard.
The whalers purposefully shoot at a female first because they know that the bull whales will attack them. And then when the bull whales come to attack them, which is exactly what happened,
he was waiting for him and very nonchalantly pulled the trigger and sent a second harpoon into the head of the whale, and he screamed and fell back, and now the water is full of blood everywhere from the two dying whales. And as this whale lay and rolled in agony on the surface of the ocean, I caught his eye, and he looked straight at me.
and I have to tell you, it's sort of beyond emotional. You know, when there's certain moments that are so emotional, you're just in brand new territory.
I began to think, why were the Russians killing these whales? You know, they didn't eat sperm whale meat, but they did use the spermaceti oil to make high heat-resistant lubricating oil for machinery. And one of the pieces of machinery that they used it in is the manufacture of intercontinental ballistic missiles. And I said, here we are destroying this incredibly beautiful, intelligent, socially complex creature for the purpose of making a weapon meant for the mass destruction of humanity. And that's when I came to me with like a flash. We're insane. We're just totally insane.
When did the state tell you to stop growing your vegetable garden?
In August of '78.
So they weren't willing to move you out, but they were willing to tell you to stop growing vegetables.
Willing to tell us not to have the kids go barefooted, not to have them go in the basement. Don't plant a garden, but enjoy your house. Live there with your family while we continue doing our tests and use you as guinea pigs.
The Love Canal residents decided to do their own health study and found an alarming increase in disease and birth defects.
We truly believed if we can prove that there is an increase in disease, they, meaning the government, will do the right thing. And we found that 56% of the children in our community were born with birth defects. 56% of our children had 3 ears, double rows of teeth, extra fingers, extra toes, or were mentally retarded. During that study time, there were 22 women who were pregnant, and of those 22 pregnancies, only 4 normal babies were born. And the health department literally threw the health study on the floor. I mean, literally took it and just threw it on the floor and said, it's useless housewife data collected by people who have a vested interest in the outcome.
The New York State Health Department was prodded into doing its own health study and presented their findings to a packed meeting in Love Canal.
The health commissioner took the stage and said, we found that 56% of the children in Love Canal were born with birth defects. And we're secretly, as sick as it sounds, saying, yes, yes, and now you're going to evacuate us, right? I mean, that's what we're hoping for. And then he says, but we don't believe those birth defects are related to Love Canal. And it's just the whole audience, you could hear, huh? I mean, it was just like, and it's like, we believe that those birth defects are related to a random clustering of genetically defective people.
I'm getting tired of them weeping. I'm getting tired of them screaming. I'm getting tired of them all waking me up in the middle of the night. There is poison in the well. Everybody's going to hell. There is poison in the well. Dead man downtown.
For the residents, Love Canal became a 2-year struggle to get relocated. Lois Gibbs pushed relentlessly and finally forced the state to bring in the federal government. The Environmental Protection Agency launched a pilot study of chromosome damage. The results of the tests were explosive.
Chromosome damage means my 2 children may be genetically damaged as a result of Love Canal. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
We will then decide whether this evidence, added to the cumulative knowledge that we already have from other health and environmental studies at Love Canal, justifies a recommendation for relocation of the residents or other appropriate actions to assist those in the area.
It seems to me that the federal government has finally, after 2 years, come up to the high-level thinking of housewives that they have constantly put down. We know what's going on. We did research too, and we want out of there. We want our kids out. Not on Wednesday, today.
Jimmy Carter had a terrific energy policy that had the goal of getting at least 20% of the nation's energy from renewable energy resources by the year 2000, and a series of proposed policies that, had they been implemented, actually would have gotten us there. He had solar water heaters installed on the White House roof.
A generation from now, this solar heater can either be a curiosity, a museum piece, an example of a road not taken, or it can be just a small part of one of the greatest ventures ever undertaken by the American people.
They tell us we must learn to live with less and teach our children that their lives will be less full and prosperous than ours have been. That the America of the coming years will be a place where, because of our past excesses, it will be impossible to dream and make those dreams come true. I don't believe that, and I don't believe you do either. That's why I'm seeking the presidency. I cannot and will not stand by and see this great country destroy itself. Our leaders attempt to blame their failures on circumstances beyond their control, on false estimates by unknown, unidentifiable experts who rewrite modern history in an attempt to convince us our high standard of living, the result of thrift and hard work, is somehow selfish extravagance, which we must renounce as we join in sharing scarcity.
You and I and other ordinary people around the world can do will not by itself save the natural world. The great decisions, the great disasters that face us can only be dealt with by governments. And that's why this organization is so important.
The Reagan White House has finally dismantled the last vestiges of the Carter administration. Workmen have now taken down the solar water heating system installed on the White House roof in 1979.
No generation has a freehold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy with a full repairing lease.
It is as menacing in its way as those more accustomed perils with which international diplomacy has concerned itself for centuries. It is the prospect of irretrievable damage to the atmosphere to the oceans, to Earth itself. What we are now doing to the world, by degrading the land surfaces, by polluting the waters, and by adding greenhouse gases to the air at an unprecedented rate, all this is new in the experience of the Earth. It is mankind and his activities which are changing the environment of our planet in damaging and dangerous ways. The result is that change in future is likely to be more fundamental and more widespread than anything we have known hitherto. Change to the sea around us, change to the atmosphere above, leading in turn to change in the world's climate, which could alter the way we live in the most fundamental way of all. That prospect is a new factor in human affairs. It's comparable in its implications to the discovery of how to split the atom. Indeed, its results could be even more far-reaching. The environmental challenge, which confronts the whole world, demands an equivalent response from the whole world. Every country will be affected, and no one can opt out. Reason is humanity's special gift. It allows us to understand the structure of the nucleus. It enables us to explore the heavens. It helps us to conquer disease. Now we must use our reason to find a way in which we can live with nature and not dominate nature. We need our reason to teach us today that we are not, that we must not try to be, lords of all we survey. We are not the lords. We are the Lord's creatures, the trustees of this planet, charged today with preserving life itself, preserving life with all its mystery and all its wonder. May we all be equal to that task.
Una importante especie biológica está en riesgo de desaparecer por la rápida y progresiva liquidación de sus condiciones naturales de vida, el hombre. Ahora tomamos conciencia de este problema cuando casi es tarde para impedirlo. Es necesario señalar que las sociedades de consumo son las responsables fundamentales de la atroz destrucción del medio ambiente. Ellas nacieron de las antiguas metrópolis coloniales y de políticas imperiales que a su vez engendraron el atraso y la pobreza que ellos azotan a la inmensa mayoría de la humanidad. Con solo el 20% de la población mundial, ellas consumen las 2/3 partes de los metales y las 3/4 partes de la energía que se produce en el mundo. Han envenenado los mares y ríos, han contaminado el aire, han debilitado y perforado la capa de ozono, han saturado la atmósfera de gases que alteran las condiciones climáticas, con efectos catastróficos que ya empezamos a padecer.
Global warming is the greatest single hoax ever perpetrated.
I don't know. Do we have to have a hurricane take out Miami and Shanghai to have everybody wake up? If it happened next year, it might be possible to still do that. But what a hell of a way to run a planet.
Daniel Craig, actor, optimist.
Pele, athlete.
Robin, comedian, cyclist, frog, translator.
Harrison Ford, actor, conservationist. Friend of frogs.
Just Stone, singer.
Denzi Gazo, simple Buddhist monk.
William, Harry, trying to preserve the rainforests. For all of us.
Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google and rainforest enthusiast.
Steve Easterbrook, Chief Executive, McDonald's UK. And committed member, the Prince's Rainforest Project.
Hello, I'm Howard Stringer, Chairman and CEO of the Sony Corporation.
Michael Dell, entrepreneur, computer guy, frog advocate.
Brian McBride, Managing Director of Amazon.co.uk.
Charlie Mayfield, Chairman of the John Lewis Partnership.
James Harding, Editor of The Times.
Christoph Ruland, Financial Times.
Michael Chow, Nike. Digital Innovator, Rainforest Star.
Martha Lane Frogs. .com Dinosaur. More recently, Frog Lover.
Hello, my name is Richard Branson. I'm somewhat of an entrepreneur and an adventurer. And in my spare time, I love to turn frogs into beautiful women.
Rich Riley, head of Yahoo Europe and father of four.
I'm Justin King, Chief Executive of Sainsbury's. I'm Tom Boardman, Chief Executive of Nedbank in South Africa, committed to the environment, deeply concerned about climate change, and passionate about the Prince's Rainforest Project.
Dana Dunn, CEO, AOL Europe, proud father, proud husband, and frog lover.
Climate change is the greatest threat facing mankind. Every year, destruction of the Earth's rainforests releases more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than all of the world's cars, planes, and ships put together. We must act now. Future generations are depending on us. Charles, Prince of Wales.
Kenneth Boulding, President Kennedy's environmental advisor 45 years ago, said something about this. Anyone who believes in indefinite growth in anything physical on a physically finite planet, he said, is either mad or an economist.
And this is why the notion of the green economy, the idea of decoupling economic growth from the consumption and the pollution footprint of our societies, has become such a critical imperative.
It raises living standards, it provides opportunities, and it shows very clearly that there's absolutely no contradiction between looking after our planet, looking after our environment, and overcoming poverty.
Some of the most promising innovation is happening in the area of clean energy technology. Technology that's creating jobs and making sure our planet is a healthier place to live that we can pass on to future generations.
是大力发展绿色经济，积极发展低碳经济和循环经济，研发和推广气候友好技术。
Every social movement arrives at a certain point in history, a point it does not choose. But it has the power to make history.
As Mark Twain once said, you know, whiskey is for sipping and water is for fighting.
Most of the public does not know that their plastic materials are being made in petrochemical plants.
People think when they're drinking bottled water that they're getting a healthy product. They're not conditioned to think, well, maybe there's something in the plastic.
We don't consider tap water to be an enemy. We don't.
Can people typically perceive a difference in taste?
I can tell the difference in many bottled waters, just as I can tell the difference between tap water and other beverages.
You can.
Absolutely.
You know, you're under oath, but you
absolutely.
You know, we'll give you.
I say that with.
We'll give you a tongue and exemption.
What place is corrupt? We are the children of Revolutionary War soldiers, and we are not going to give this up without a fight.